In this video we are going to be looking at the question, how are the Romans typically portrayed? Learn intention is to investigate the typical portrayal of the Romans. Success criteria is to describe how they're usually portrayed, to explain why this is the case, and to evaluate why this is an issue. So by portrayal what we mean is how they are put forward. So what are people's typical thoughts or imaginations when they think of the Romans, and how are they often seen in the wider world? So we're going to go straight into a task. Task 1. What I want you to do is go to google.com and search the Romans. So exactly how I've put it, search the Romans. Then I want you to select images. Once you've done this, I'd like you to write a short paragraph to describe how the Romans are usually portrayed in these images. So what do they look like in the majority of these images? So don't describe every one, just on the whole, how do they look usually? So you might include gender, skin color, hair color, clothing, what they're carrying, what job it looks like they do. So look through those first images, the ones that come up. Don't need to dig through into further pages, just the first few. What is the typical view of what a Roman is? What does a Roman look like? I want you to pause the video now and then complete your paragraph. Once you're done, press play and we can move on. So, the typical Roman you probably discovered looks something like this. In fact, this is one of the images that came up for me when I did the same Google search. Now, based on these images, you would see that a typical Roman would be male, he'd be tall, he'd be light-skinned, he'd be a soldier, he'd carry weaponry, he'd have a shield and he'd have a helmet. That is what the typical Roman is. If you say to someone, what does a Roman look like? I imagine 9 times out of 10 this is the image or a similar image that would come into people's heads. It's just how it is. So let's try another task then. This time I want you to go back to Google, and this time you're going to search, instead of the Romans, you're going to search Roman citizen. So hopefully we can get an idea of what a typical Roman citizen or just a normal townsperson looks like. So again, you need to go to images. Using those images, I want you to complete these 2 questions in complete sentences. So the first one is, what gender are most of the Romans in the results of the search? And secondly, what is the skin colour that most of the Romans have in the results of the search? So make sure you are answering these in full question sentences, so don't just write the answer. So you'd write the gender that most of the Romans in the results of the Google search Roman citizen are, and then put what you see. So pause the video, and then once you've done that, click play so you're ready to move on. So, typical Roman citizen. If, like me, you googled Roman citizen, this is a lot of what came up. So again, male, light skin, dark hair, usually look quite wealthy and well dressed. So these are the typical Roman citizens coming up on a Google search. So again, very male orientated. These are the typical images of what a Roman looks like. But who is being missed from this typical portrayal? So we've looked at lots of different images now of different Romans. Usually, 9 times out of 10, they are put forward as male. A lot of the time, they are seen as soldiers, and if they're not soldiers, they are usually seen as quite wealthy. But this is missing a lot of people out. So what I want you to do is just quickly jot down some of the groups you think might be missing out from this view. Again, pause the video and then press play when you're ready to move on, and I will go through some of those missing groups. Firstly, you've got women who are missing from this typical view. There might have been a couple of images of Roman women pop up in our searches, but if, like me, when you searched it, there wasn't many. So women are a big group entirely missed out in this common view of the Romans. The poor. Again, most of the images, it looks like the Romans are fairly wealthy. They're either wealthy, dressed in robes, or they are soldiers. So where are the poor people? Were there no poor people in Roman times? Hard to believe. Children. I don't recall in my searches getting any images of Roman children come up during my searches. So that's interesting. Why are there no children popping up in our traditional view of what Romans are and what they look like? Lastly, we've got different ethnic groups. Are we led to believe that Romans are purely white-skinned? They are only light-skinned? Bit interesting, considering the fact that, as we've already discovered, the Roman Empire was massive. It spread throughout Europe, through Africa, into the Middle East and the Silk Road region. So surely some Roman citizens are in fact not going to be light-skinned, particularly citizens who are in parts of the empire which is in North Africa and in the Middle East, in the Silk Road region. So why is it that our typical view of what a Roman looks like is light-skinned? Now, why is this common view of the Romans such an issue then? Well, as we've seen, it doesn't represent all Romans. It gives us a very narrow view of what Romans look like. In fact, usually it focuses on the Romans in Rome, which is one city in a massive empire. This view of the Romans also infers that other groups are less Roman. So women are less Roman than men, is that true? Are children less Roman than men? Are other parts of the empire less Roman than citizens who live in Rome? I think this is giving the wrong impression to people that this is what Romans are and what they look like. It suggests that women are less important in history, that men are such a focus point when looking at the Romans. It suggests that Romans are only white or light-skinned, where in fact many Roman citizens are what would be described as olive-skinned, or if they're from the different parts of the empire, they would be black if they're from Africa. There were black people in the Roman army. It's not just light-skinned Romans. So that view is a definite misconception. Also, if we're led to believe when we search the Romans that all Romans are soldiers. In fact, there are only going to be so many soldiers in the empire, and overall the grand scheme of the whole empire, there's going to be less people who are soldiers that aren't. So this view that Romans are all soldiers is one, glorifying war and exaggerating the number of soldiers there are in the Roman Empire. And again, it does glorify war. The fact that we search the Romans and we think of these soldiers wearing their armour and their swords and their shields sort of makes war seem more exciting. It makes the Romans, makes the wars that the Romans fought all they are, and that's definitely not the case. So there are lots of issues that come from this typical view of what a Roman is. Now, what you're going to do for your final task is there's a set of questions. So firstly, did the Google searches of the typical Roman match what you imagine the typical Roman looked like? So is that what you had in your head of what a Roman looked like? So I would like you to describe why or why not those searches matched up with your imagination. So yes, the searches did match my view of what a Roman looked like because, or no, I had a different view of what a typical Roman looked like because. So you're explaining why or why not your imagination matched or didn't match the Google searches. 2. Explain why the results shown in the Google image searches we did earlier are a problem. So why is it an issue that those searches came out as mostly male and came out with lots of soldiers? Why is that a problem when looking at history? Question 3. This is one for you to think about. So why do you think it's important that we learn about all groups in history, not just white or light-skinned men? So explain why it's important to look at all groups in history for that question. Lastly, there's a challenge question. Why do you think that the typical portrayal of a Roman is a light-skinned male soldier? So why do you think that is the image of Romans that most commonly comes up into people's heads and is the one that's shown on TV a lot of the time? So we haven't talked about that. That is a prediction and something for you to think about. So as usual, make sure you are using the PowerPoint and looking back through the video to help you answer the questions. Make sure you're answering first in full sentences, and make sure you are putting in reasoning and you're writing in detail, please. That is your final task for the day. Once you are done, make sure to submit your work through Teams. Thank you for watching.